Hello there and welcome back to Szpakowo. So it's a very snowy February morning and let's take a look to see what we have to do for this month. I don't think we have an awful lot. Nothing in terms of contracts there I want to entertain. Let's take a look at our productions. So our bakeries, they're doing just fine. Our oat flour has run out, so we'll deactivate that. And then we don't have much wheat left, so we'll leave that to finish producing, or in fact we may as well turn that off because it's not going to produce another full bag before it's done. So we can just switch that off and then we don't have to worry about remembering to do it. And yeah, I don't really think there's anything to do in our fields this month, so we may as well skip through to March and start thinking about planting for next season. One thing I could do, I suppose, is head over to this field here, get the bales, put them in the TMR production. I think, yeah, actually that's what I'll do. I'll put them in there and then they can be just in there doing their thing. So I think that is a good idea. We'll pick up the bales on the trailer, take them back to our farm, put them in the TMR production, and then we'll head over to the store. We'll get our trailer reconfigured as a grain trailer, top up with fuel, and then we'll probably skip through to March. Okay, so here we are over at our other field. Let's get these bales loaded up. Of course, I forgot to switch out the pallet fork, didn't I? Okay, well, I'll continue with this anyway, and I will come back to you once we are done. Okay, so it is March and there's still snow on the ground. Now I'm really still not sure. I thought our second bakery had vanished then. I couldn't see it from here. It looks like there's only one, but the other one's a little further forward. Yeah, so let's see what's on the cards for March. There's a few more contracts. There's a little bit of lime to do over there. I think I want to start moving away from doing contracts at this point because I don't really want to do them. I would rather just focus on our own fields. Now we're not desperate for money right now, so I'm happy to just kind of mostly focus on our own fields. So what are we going to plant in our fields for this year? So we could do wheat or sorghum in our field 179. I think we're probably going to go with sorghum because it's a better recipe for the flour, for the bread. So that's what we're going to put in there. Obviously we're going to be putting rice in here, and then this is just going to be our grass field. Now, is our grass at growth stage 4 of 4 or is it still on 3 of 4? Let's take a quick look. Miraculously, it hasn't snowed on the grass field. So this is on stage 3 of 4. So we're going to leave that until next month, and then we can chop it, split half for silage, half for hay, and feed that to our TMR production. And then we can be producing TMR for our incoming cows. You know, I was thinking of what to do with the rest of our money, And looking at the cow production, if we go to the husbandry, we are going to need to remove manure and slurry from the cow pasture. So we're going to have to buy vehicles for that. We're going to have to buy a slurry tank and a manure spreader so that we can actually reuse that manure and slurry. So I looked at those vehicles or those implements, tools, whatever you want to call them, and they are not cheap. They're all fairly expensive. So this one is 31,500. Although this can also do lime, so this will actually be a pretty good upgrade. If we need it for manure, we could also spread lime with it. Yeah, that would actually be really cool. So we could get maybe this one here. Just looking at what has the most capacity for future-proofing everything. For now, though, I think we're just going to skip through to April, get our 2 fields prepped and planted, and then we can continue from there. See you in April. Welcome to April. So we have a busy month this month. We're going to be mowing our grass, cultivating our sorghum field and planting the sorghum, and also planting rice. So let's get started. I think we'll start with the grass mowing because we can then wrap and start producing the silage. We can ditch the hay in the TMR production, and that can be doing its thing while we continue with the other fields. So I'm going to drop off the bale spike. In fact, I'm going to drop off the whole front loader. I don't need that, do I? So that's that dropped off. Let's pick up our mowers and we'll get started for the month. Before we continue with the mowing, let's take a look at our options for a tedder, because that's an extra step we're going to have to do with the grass. We don't really need a massive tedder because that field's pretty small. However, this is 5.8, this is 8.2. I'm just thinking for the future so that we don't have to buy a new one in the future. I think this seems like a fairly decent option. Yeah, this seems like a fairly decent option, and then we don't have to worry about upgrading in the future. So yeah, we'll pick this up. So let's get the grass mowed, and we'll get it tedded, or we'll then get half of it tedded, and then we'll get it wrapped and ready to be made into silage. I will continue with this, and I'll see you soon. Okay, so that is the mowing, tedding and windrowing done. So I had some thoughts while I was going around, and I think I did a little bit more grass than hay because the silage bales or the grass bales have less grass in them than hay. So that will mean that there will be more grass bales for the hay bales, and if I remember the recipe correctly, it's the same amount of each to make the TMR. So that was one thought I had, and then the other thought was for those areas where the baler's going to be mixing hay and grass. I don't know how that's going to work, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. So because we have grass in the baler, let's start off with the grass, and so I will go around, get this done, and I will return again once we're complete. Okay, so that is the hay and the grass baled up. I had to stop by the store, pick up some more bale wrap because we ran out, we didn't have any left on the farm. So the next job is to get the grass wrapped so it can start making silage. Now, I'm not sure which of the bales are grass and which are hay. I'm sure a closer inspection will reveal that, but I know the ones on the side of the field that are closest to the other fields are mostly grass. I'm just not quite sure where it switches over, so we'll have to figure that out. Anyways, let's back our baler in here. We'll switch it out for the wrapper, which is just around here, I believe, and we will continue the wrapping. We're getting closer to cows. Now, how am I going to get out of here with this wrapper? We'll just reverse around here like this. Almost. There we go. Okay, so I think that you can't wrap the hay bales. Now, I know this bale is hay, so let's test that theory out. Yeah, there you go. See, so you can't wrap hay bales. It's going to be easy enough to just wrap the grass bales. So we'll continue with this, and I will rejoin you.
I've got something incredibly funky. they've gone and done it again.
Okay, so this is the last of the grass bales, and we have 14 grass bales and 8 hay bales. So next time we chop, we'll do an extra row of tedding because we want to have roughly the same amount. Let me just double check the recipe and the production. Oh, so it's not the same. It's 1,000 silage plus 500 hay plus 400 straw. Okay, so then it's good that we have more grass bales that will turn into silage than we do hay, because we don't need as much hay. So that's just perfect. Okay, so yeah, just 4 trips out to the field, and then we can, because these can be ditched straight in the TMR silo for production. Just like this. So I think in 3 months' time, we'll be able to ditch the silage in there, and then we will be good for TMR. Do we need anything else? We need a mineral feed as well. So, okay, once we've picked all these up off the field, then I'll quickly run over to the store with the tractor and trailer, pick up the pallets that are over there, and I'll grab some mineral feed. I wonder if there's a way to produce mineral feed. I think there is. I think there's a similar silo to this for mineral feed. Let's take a quick look at that. I'm pretty sure there is in the build menu. That's for food mix. That's for silage. That's for seeds. That's for food mix. I'm sure there's a mineral feed production somewhere. Yeah, there it is. So it needs sugar beet, canola, and lime. I don't know if it needs all 3 of those or a combination of them. So maybe I'll throw that into a test world and find out, because if it's canola, then we're going to need to find a field for canola, because if I remember right, mineral feed's actually pretty expensive to buy. Okay, that's our mineral feed dropped off, but it's not being taken. Did we buy the wrong thing? No, that's mineral feed. So does the mineral feed need to be delivered somewhere else then? I seem to remember that was a thing in FS22. Let's take a quick look. Okay. Well, I enabled super strength and I ran around the outside of the building and everywhere I could think trying to drop off the mineral feed, and I couldn't figure it out. So I have made a post in the discussion section of Steam, and I guess we'll just have to hope that it can be figured out so that we can make TMR with this silo. Otherwise we're going to have to think of some kind of alternative, which would be annoying as I've spent money on that. I think I'd probably end up removing it and just refunding myself the money, because I'm not prepared to lose money because of mods with bugs. Let's continue with cultivating and planting our fields. So while we're over here, first of all, we may as well get our rice field planted. I will continue with that and I'll come back to you once I'm done. Okay, so we have mostly finished planting the rice. Just going to go down this little straggly piece down here and then grab 2 little spots I see at the end there. And then we can move on to taking care of our sorghum field. That's that done. So we'll leave the seeder just here because we don't have anywhere else to put it. In fact, we can actually put it against the outside of this shed, can't we? That makes sense. It's a nice little spot for it now we've got some extra space here. So we'll just ditch it here for now. Okay, so we will top up with sorghum. Doesn't need much seeds. And let's go over to our sorghum field and get it taken care of. I will do the needful and I'll be back with you soon. Okay, so this field is taking a long time to plant now that we've restored it back to its original size. It was kind of manageable before when we only had half the field because of our farm buildings. It was still pretty cumbersome to plant with this little planter, but now it's gotten to a point where I feel like we need to upgrade our equipment if we're going to keep using sorghum in this field, because this is just taking way too long. So it's something we'll bear in mind for the future. Even if we were to plant sorghum in the other field, it would still take a long time. I guess we really do need an upgrade of some kind. The next planter up is pretty expensive, if I remember right. So if we look at planters, yeah, the next planter up is 49,000, and that's only, it's 4.5 meters as opposed to 3, and then 59,000 for 6 meters. So we'll be keeping an eye out in the discount store for a discounted planter. Anyways, I will continue with this, and I will probably come back to you once we are complete. I will see you in a bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are on the last pass, or the last couple of passes of the field. You can see there's 3 strips there left to do. So we're almost there. I'm wondering why some of the field hasn't taken fertilizer though. You see in the nitrogen map in the lower left, the bits to the row I'm going down now, that makes sense because I'm fertilizing it now, and the row to the left. But the rows to the right, they've all been planted. You can see there's no unplanted strips there, and yet there are a couple of pieces that just haven't taken fertilizer. Not quite sure what's happening there. Yeah, because the fertilizer's still going down. I think what I'll do is probably next month I'll bring the sprayer over here and just ensure that everything that needs to be fertilized is fertilized properly, because that should do it very accurately with the pulse width modulation. So last pass here then, and then what I will probably do is grab the roller very quickly and zip over the field with the roller. That has to be done the same month you plant the crop, and I'll leave the spraying until next month. Yeah, I think that makes sense. So I will continue with that, and then I will come back to you once we are complete. So we are almost done rolling this field. This is the last pass, and fortunately this didn't take anywhere near as long as planting the field. The working speed is faster, the working width is wider, so this was a much less tedious task. And we are complete. So that's all the rolling taken care of. And I don't think there's anything left to do for this month, so I think we will leave it there. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying following along. If you are, of course, please do like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I will hopefully see you in the next episode. Until then, bye for now.